For decades, Rush wasn't just a band. It was a rare musical chemistry between three extraordinary musicians, Geddy Lee, Lifeson, and the legendary Neil Peart. Together, they built one of the most respected catalogs in rock history. That's why when Rush announced their return with acclaimed German drummer Anika Nilles, excitement exploded across the fanbase. After years of uncertainty following Neil Peart's death in 2020, fans were finally getting something they never thought they'd see again: Rush on stage. Anika was personally selected by Geddy and Alex for the band's 50-something tour, a celebration of Rush's music and Neil's legacy. But beneath the excitement lies a fear that many Rush fans can't shake. It's not that Anika lacks talent. In fact, even many skeptics admit she's one of the most technically gifted drummers of her generation. She has earned praise throughout the music industry for her precision, creativity, and ability to handle complex rhythms. The real fear is much deeper. Many fans worry that no matter how incredible Anika is, simply hearing Rush perform without Neil Peart behind the drum kit could change the band's identity forever. After all, Neil wasn't just the drummer. He was Rush's primary lyricist, philosophical voice, and one-third of the chemistry that made the band unique. For many lifelong fans, replacing a drummer is one thing. Replacing Neil Peart is impossible, and that's where the debate begins. Some fans see Anika as the perfect musician to help honor Rush's legacy. Others fear that even a respectful tribute risks reopening old wounds and forcing comparisons that no drummer could ever win. To understand why some Rush fans are nervous about Anika Nilles, you first have to understand the impossible standards set by Neil Peart. When Neil joined Rush in 1974, he didn't just improve the band, he transformed it. His technical drumming pushed Rush into entirely new territory, helping create classics like Tom Sawyer, Limelight, and The Spirit of Radio. But his impact went far beyond the drum kit. Neil also wrote most of Rush's lyrics, filling the band's music with themes of freedom, science fiction, philosophy, and personal growth. For millions of fans, those lyrics became just as important as the music itself. That's why many Rush fans don't view Neil as merely a former member. They view him as irreplaceable. Over the years, countless drummers have tried to play Neil's parts. Some have mastered the technical side, a few have even amazed audiences with their accuracy. But fans often point out that copying the notes isn't the same as capturing the spirit. And now, Anika Nilles faces that challenge on the biggest stage of her career. Every drum fill, every transition, and every classic Rush song will inevitably be compared to Neil's original performances. That's a level of scrutiny few musicians ever experience. What's interesting is that Anika herself has never claimed she can replace Neil Peart. Instead, she's built her reputation by being uniquely herself. Her playing style combines technical precision with creativity, groove, and musicality. Rather than sounding like a copy of Neil, she brings her own voice to the instrument. Ironically, that may be exactly what worries some fans. If she tries to imitate Neil, critics may call it an imitation. If she adds her own personality, critics may say it isn't Rush anymore. It's a no-win situation that would challenge even the world's greatest drummers. And that's why the pressure surrounding this tour is unlike anything Rush has faced before. The question isn't whether Anika can play the music. The question is whether fans are ready to hear that music interpreted by someone new. As news of Anika Nilles joining Rush spread, the fan reaction was immediate. But instead of total agreement, the community quickly split into two very different camps. On one side are fans who believe Geddy Lee and Lifeson have earned the right to make this decision. Their argument is simple. If anyone understands what Rush should be, it's the two surviving members who helped build the band from the ground up. These fans point out that Geddy and Alex spent decades performing alongside Neil Peart. They know exactly what qualities are needed to handle Rush's incredibly demanding music. If they chose Anika, they likely saw something special in her musicianship. Supporters also argue that Rush has never been a band that stands still. Throughout their career, they evolved constantly, experimenting with progressive rock, synthesizers, hard rock, and modern production. In that sense, bringing in a drummer with her own unique style actually fits Rush's tradition of moving forward rather than looking backward. But not everyone sees it that way. Some fans worry that any version of Rush without Neil Peart risks feeling incomplete. To them, Rush wasn't just a collection of songs. It was the chemistry between three specific people. For these fans, the concern isn't about Anika's talent. In fact, many openly praise her skills. Their fear is that seeing Rush perform again could be a constant reminder of what's missing, rather than a celebration of what's still there. There's also another concern that rarely gets discussed openly. Many fans fear that expectations have become unrealistically high because Anika is being introduced during such an emotional chapter in Rush's history. Every performance could be judged far more harshly than normal. A small mistake that would go unnoticed for most drummers could become headline news among die-hard fans. That's a burden few musicians would want. Yet despite the pressure, Anika appears to understand exactly what she's walking into. She knows she's stepping onto a stage that carries decades of history, memories, and emotions. And surprisingly, that awareness may be one of the biggest reasons Geddy and Alex believed she was the right choice. If the goal was simply to find a drummer who could play fast, Geddy Lee and Alex Lifeson had countless options. The world is full of technically impressive musicians who can reproduce difficult drum parts. But Rush wasn't looking for a drum machine. They were looking for a musician. That's what makes Anika Nilles such an interesting choice. Long before any connection to Rush, Anika built a reputation through her own original compositions and performances. Instead of becoming famous by copying other drummers, she gained recognition by creating a style that was unmistakably her own. Her videos attracted millions of views, and professional musicians around the world praised her creativity, timing, and musical intelligence. Those qualities matter because Neil Peart himself wasn't merely a technical drummer. What made Neil special was his ability to serve the song while still bringing a unique personality to every performance. His drumming was complex, but it was never complexity for its own sake. Every fill, accent, and rhythmic choice had a purpose. Many observers believe Geddy and Alex saw a similar mindset in Anika. They weren't searching for someone to impersonate Neil. They were searching for someone capable of honoring the music while contributing authentic musicianship. That's an important distinction. A drummer trying too hard to sound exactly like Neil might actually make the performances feel artificial. But a drummer who respects the material while bringing genuine artistry could help keep the music alive in a meaningful way. Another factor working in Anika's favor is her professionalism. Over the years, she's earned respect from fellow musicians not only because of her skills, but because of her dedication to continuous improvement. That willingness to learn is critical when dealing with a catalog as demanding as Rush's. Still, none of this eliminates the enormous challenge ahead, because no matter how talented Anika is, the first time she sits behind that drum kit in front of thousands of Rush fans, one comparison will be unavoidable. Every audience member will be asking the same question: can anyone truly carry forward Neil Peart's legacy? This is where the story becomes truly fascinating. Most discussions about Anika Nilles focus on what could go wrong. Fans debate the risks, the comparisons, and the possibility that some people may never accept anyone behind Neil Peart's drum kit. But what if the opposite happens? What if Anika exceeds expectations? If that happens, Rush could find itself entering a chapter that many fans thought was impossible just a few years ago. Remember, after Neil Peart's passing in 2020, many people assumed the story of Rush had effectively come to an end. The band had always been built around three musicians whose chemistry seemed impossible to replicate. For a long time, even the idea of a return felt unlikely. Yet here we are. The possibility of seeing Geddy Lee and Alex Lifeson performing Rush music again has already generated enormous excitement. For younger fans who never had the opportunity to see the band live, this could be their first chance to experience those legendary songs in concert. And if Anika delivers memorable performances, something remarkable could happen. The conversation might shift from, can she replace Neil, to how is she helping keep Rush's music alive? That's a completely different discussion. History has shown that many legendary bands have faced similar moments. Fans often resist change at first, especially when a beloved member is no longer present. But over time, audiences sometimes come to appreciate that honoring a legacy doesn't necessarily mean freezing it in place forever. That doesn't mean the concerns will disappear. There will always be fans who believe Rush should have ended permanently with Neil Peart. Their viewpoint is understandable and deserves respect. Neil's contribution to the band was simply too important to ignore. However, there's also another perspective. Many fans believe the greatest tribute to Neil isn't silence, it's continuing to celebrate the music, the creativity, and the spirit that he helped create. If Anika can help make that possible, she may accomplish something far more significant than merely playing the drums. She could help bridge the gap between Rush's past and its future. And that's why the final verdict on Anika Nilles may ultimately have less to do with technical skill and more to do with something much bigger. After all the debates, arguments, and speculation, we've finally arrived at the heart of the issue. What is Rush fans' biggest fear about Anika Nilles? Surprisingly, it may not be about Anika at all. The deeper fear is that Rush's return could force fans to confront a reality they've spent years trying to accept. There will never be another Neil Peart. No drummer, no matter how talented, can recreate what Neil meant to Rush. His musicianship, lyrics, personality, and decades-long partnership with Geddy Lee and Lifeson were unique. That chapter of Rush's history is finished, and nothing can change that. For some fans, that's a painful truth, because every time Rush performs again, memories of Neil naturally come flooding back. The comparisons are inevitable, the emotions are unavoidable, and for many people, that's where the real uncertainty comes from. Anika Nilles simply happens to be the person standing in the spotlight. The reality is that she faces a challenge that no drummer could completely escape. If Rush had selected another famous drummer, the same debates would still exist. The questions would remain, the expectations would be just as enormous. Yet there's another side to this story. Many fans are beginning to realize that the goal isn't to replace Neil Peart. The goal is to celebrate the music he helped create. When viewed through that lens, Anika's role becomes much clearer. She isn't being asked to become the next Neil Peart. She's being asked to help bring Rush's songs to life for a new generation while honoring the legacy of the original band, and perhaps that's why Geddy Lee and Lifeson chose her in the first place. They didn't need someone who could copy Neil perfectly. Such a person doesn't exist. They needed someone with the talent, respect, humility, and confidence to step into an impossible situation and give everything she has. Whether every fan embraces that decision remains to be seen. But one thing is certain, the future of Rush won't be determined by whether Anika Nilles can become Neil Peart. It will be determined by whether fans are willing to celebrate what Rush still is, rather than focusing only on what it once was. And if that happens, the band's next chapter may become one of the most emotional, meaningful, and unexpected stories in rock history. The biggest fear was never Anika Nilles. The biggest fear was learning how to move forward without Neil Peart.